On a beautiful day, and I hope you're having a beautiful week as always. I wanted to do this live stream today to talk about why I think the Overton window is shifting left and why the Republican Party, although I'm not accusing everybody of being controlled opposition, I'm not being irrational, oh, they're all fake, they're all doing this. That's not what I'm trying to say. But ideologically, the right wing, the Republican Party, is acting like a controlled opposition in the sense of they're almost guaranteeing a far left future. And I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to explain it. And I think a lot of people are going to agree with me when they hear how I'm coming about it. So that's what I'm talking about, how the Republican Party has become controlled opposition in the sense of the left will shift the Overton window towards the left further, further, further. The right will shift along with them. And what the right wing actually does is gatekeeps and blocks other people out of it, really just assuring that the left wing will, be victorious in the end ideologically. So that's the show. I'm probably going to wait like 30 seconds. I'll put a few comments up before we start just to keep it entertaining. And then once a bunch of people get here, we're going to start it. Let's see. Diana says hi. Slowy Whiteboard says that. We got some hearts and some waves. Funky Blue, appreciate you. Yep. Jess said what we got. Texas in the house. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. A lot of independence, said Lady Macbeth. We appreciate you. What up from Santa Cruz? Giovanna said, love you. I appreciate you. All right, that's enough. We're going to start the show, folks. And I want to get to this main talking point. And then, I'll answer some questions and hang out with you guys. Okay, so I've figured it out. I mean, I've talked about it a little bit, but I'm really putting it all together today. And I've decided that I believe, whether they know it or not, I'm not blaming every Republican. Like, they know what they're doing. I think some do, some don't. I think actually a majority don't. So I'm going to explain how the Republican Party, Fox News, the mainstream, even a lot of the MAGA movement, not purposely, is ensuring the left comes to victory psychologically. This is my psychological analysis, why Republicans lose ground. So on the left wing, we see that they're becoming further and further authoritarian. If you talk about gender, they want to ban you. It's hate speech, Babylon B. They're going further, further towards censorship, right? They're going authoritarian. They're not liberal anymore. They're not open to new ideas. They're just going full-blown authoritarian in a weird, weird direction. So you have the Republican Party, right? This is the opposition party. Donald Trump, sometimes it's Mitt Romney. I mean, he's a phony, but even the mainstream people, Fox News, these people that are like, oh, they're cooler than the Mitt Romneys, right? They're fake. This is the real Republican Party. We're really going to bring it back. Here's what a lot of people do. It happens on Getter. It happens on Parler. It happens at events like CPAC, TPUSA, even a lot of these new age, conventions that are super cool, super hip. They're moving it right a little bit. There's this weird thing that goes on where, let's say like Fox News, they will hire Caitlyn Jenner, right? Caitlyn Jenner is now a Fox News contributor, like officially or something. So this is something, and I'm going to get to it. Please stick with me, whether you like Caitlyn Jenner or not, you feel a certain way. Hear me out because it's really important, and I'm going to get to it. But, 15, 20 years ago, Obama was against gay marriage. California actually voted down gay marriage in 2008 as a premature, like, hey, we're against it in case they try to federalize it. So even California used to be against gay marriage within the last 20 years. Okay, now the Overton window is so far towards the left socially that even Fox News is willing to host Caitlyn Jenner. Now, I would be somewhat okay with this if they allowed the conversation on the further right to exist, right? But here's what a lot of people on the right wing do at the major events at Fox News. They act like the people that are actually more conservative than them and Christian than them, they do this kind of left-wing gatekeepery thing where they're like, we will tell you what's conservative, but, people like Bryson Gray, Nick Fuentes, etc., for different reasons, they'll say, they're so far right, we will ban them from our platforms. We will ban them from Getter or their conversations, hate speech. And, I'm not saying they're both banned, but I believe one of them is, we will not even entertain this conversation. And this is why they're psychologically setting themselves up for failure. I'm not telling you have to agree with Nick and Bryson on everything. You should be your own person and feel how you feel socially. If you're a libertarian, you're a libertarian. If you're more Christian conservative, you're Christian conservative. If you're a Muslim, who am I to tell you that you shouldn't? You get what I'm saying? I'm not telling people what to believe, but I'm just saying psychologically, this is my analysis. When the right wing is moving further and further to the left, they're not allowing a further right-wing conversation. They're agreeing with the left wing that, yeah, they're too far, right? But they will literally go so far as to hire Caitlyn Jenner at Fox News. So now there's going to be people watching Fox News and they have normalized transgenderism. Okay, are you allowing the other side of the conversation to be heard? Because that's a true free market where it's like you have the people far to the left, you have the people far to the right, in the middle. Everybody has a debate, but The right wing is almost guaranteeing that the left wing wins the Overton window because they're sliding the Overton window further and further and further. The right wing plays along. And the thing is, I would be okay with them playing along as long as they allowed the other conversation to be had, because then it would naturally weigh itself out and the best ideas would win. If they were liberal, I think the liberals would win. If they were further right and further conservative and Christian, then the further, they would naturally bring them back a little bit. And that's what's happening in this country. The left has gone insane. The right is going further left. The middle ground is psycho now. And the reason it's happening is not just because the left's going further left. It's actually also happening because the right wing is ensuring that it happens. They're almost like a controlled opposition, team, where it's like they're just there to facilitate this idea that they're conserving something, but they're guaranteeing that we will never conserve anything, because anybody that takes it further conservative, they will blacklist, they will ban from events. Like, this goes on in the right wing, guys. I don't know if you know, but if you have these unpopular Christian or conservative or further right opinions, it's not like these people know how to debate you, and the modern conservative people, they're like, no, you're crazy. No, the left is right about you. You are that. You're horrible. You're racist. You're sexist. You're a transphobe. You're a homophobe. You need to like Rob Smith and Caitlyn Jenner. And all I'm saying is, no offense to Rob Smith or Caitlyn Jenner, I'm just being honest. If you are going to push and this is not Rob or Caitlyn's fault, but like Fox News, TPUSA, they act as if all the opponents of their ideology are so bad and shouldn't even be allowed in the public conversation, when in reality, this is why the left wing wins. They push further, they censor, the right goes along with them, they censor their right wing. Naturally, in a free market, this would balance out and move a little bit further to the right, because I'm not saying one side has the right ideas or the wrong ideas, but the modern conservative movement is more liberal than other Democrats. But it's not just because the left is moving further left. It's because the right is blocking their further right and saying that they're too far. For instance, at some of these big right-wing events, you could get in if you're like a left-wing psycho journalist who hates right-wingers, like Right Wing Watch. All you do is just complain about them, try to get them banned, try to get them censored. They will allow in on Getter further right activists just to be like, hey, we're right, we're conservative, right? We don't ban people. We believe in free speech. So they let these slimy left-wing journalists into their events, but they'll ban far right people and be like, but this is where we draw the line. And it's like, do you get what I'm saying? Psychologically, they're moving further left. They're blocking out the further right conversation. There's no way. It's the same reason the whole country goes further left. It's because they're not allowing a free market conversation. They are making it essentially illegal for you to talk about gender. They're making it essentially illegal for you to disagree with Black Lives Matter. You might lose your job. They're making it illegal to criticize Pfizer. So the left wing's going authoritarianism. They're hiding their political agenda behind big pharma, behind racial groups, behind LGBT, and then you can't even talk to them. Meanwhile, the right is becoming a more left-wing version of the left wing 10 years ago, and they're doing the smaller version of the same thing. Oh, we're going to have Caitlyn Jenner on Fox News. Oh, we're going to have the gay person do this. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. But here's my issue, folks. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to do that in America. I'm saying the fact that the right wing does all this stuff and turns into a further left version of the left wing 10 years ago, but then banishes, blocks, bad mouths. If you ever watch an interview of people like Dan Crenshaw gets asked a question and he can't handle a question from the further right. They have very valid questions about his free speech policies, about his, Second Amendment red flag law idea he floated around. His Ukraine opinions are garbage. He said, so the point I'm saying, I don't care if you like or dislike Dan Crenshaw, but these right wingers melt down when you start to challenge them from the right. They're like, oh my God, that's an anti-Semite. Oh my goodness, what are you, a Russian propaganda? Like, they play these same little games. So it's almost as if they're controlled opposition, where it's like the left goes crazy far left, the right moves further left than Obama was 20 years ago. And the craziest part is they don't even allow you to have a conversation about it, which is my pet peeve in anything, because it's like, I don't, there's elements of both sides I see. I'm a very compassionate person. I'm not just like a hateful person. Like, I'm trying to humanize the situation. Okay, how can we be nice but not ruin society at the same time? But, it's not like these people, I think they're all just being paid off or anything. For some reason, this power structure on the right wing, it's safe. It's safer to just not talk about that stuff. It's safer to be socially liberal. It's safer to virtue signal. And it's like, what they don't realize is they're gatekeeping the philosophy of the left wing and not allowing the further right element of it to drag it back naturally, or at least allow people to hear that conversation so they could weigh out both ideas in their head and move forward. I've watched so many of them ban right wingers from events, ban right wingers from apps, right wingers banning other right wingers, but they're more tolerant to the far left than they are to the far right. And I feel like just psychologically, that's going to skew. When it comes to the far left and Antifa, I think what's annoying about them is they just like throw fits and like hit things. But if Antifa was just trying to talk and show up in events and discuss, I wouldn't have a problem with them. I don't care if they're full blown communists. I think we should be allowed to have a conversation about it. But the problem with them is they just hit things, they yell, they want to ruin events. Yeah, it's like that's annoying. But when it comes to a lot of these far right people, they have certain ideologies and conversations that are not politically correct. Like the right wing gatekeepers in the Republican Party and a lot of the MAGA movement, like as revolutionary as Trump was, a lot of his advisors and his movement is very safe in some ways, where it's like they're like, no, 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 we disavow, we can't. And I'm like, you're moving left, 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 left. And then they act like people like Bryson Gray are like this huge problem. And I'm like, if you don't know Bryson Gray, he's a rapper, but he's also super right wing, super Christian, super conservative, and he's like almost like semi blacklisted. Like, oh my gosh, his opinions, we disavow that. We are the log cabin Republicans, and we can't even allow that. And I'm like, why do you not understand why Bryson feels the way he feels? You don't have to agree with him, but like the slippery slope is clearly real. Like anybody that's going to sit there and say, I can't figure out why these Christians feel that way. I felt that way 10 years ago. I get it now. I understand why they feel. I have compassion for them because I'm like, yeah, the slippery slope was realer than we thought it was. So that, why it's, but there's like right wing groups that are like, oh, that's homophobic and we can't even associate with him. You're moving further left than Obama, Hillary, like Joe Biden 10 years ago. And now you're blocking off right wingers from combating you. It's like your controlled opposition that is purposely moving us further and further left, socially, economically, politically, like in every which way. The Trump era went further left than Obama. In gay marriage, Trump went further than Obama. I mean, maybe I don't know how he supported it, but he was more pro gay at the start. Okay, but what about economically? He was conservative for a while, but once COVID came around, he turned into a money printing AOC. And I'm not saying he is AOC, but it's like I'm trying to figure out what we're conserving because it's certainly not social issues. You're now adopting further left stances than the left wing. And the crazy part is you're not even allowing the debate. If you just thought that way, I don't care. But you're not going to allow the debate. Now I don't like you. Now I have to speak about you. Now I have to get you out of the way because you're not allowing a free market of ideas and you are adapting left-wing policy and blocking other right-wingers. You're now controlled opposition. So they're not conserving anything socially. They're not conserving anything fiscally. Like economically, our country is way further left than we were 20, 30 years ago. I'm trying to figure out what are we conserving? Really nothing. There's a famous quote, I forget who said it or who they credit this to, but like progressivism is or republicanism or conservatism is progressivism with a speed limit. It's like, the Democrats are flying 50 miles an hour that way. The Republicans are flying 20 miles an hour that way. And people saying stop the train are called homophobes and racists or something, where it's like, it's not even a racial thing. It's just like you guys are doing further left stuff in every department, economically, socially. And now you're trying to censor speech. You've had the Getter CEO go on Tim Cast and admit he censors Nick Fuentes and supporters of him for saying a word. And then it was like Groyper. And then Tim's like, do you know what that word means? And he couldn't even define what the word meant. He said, I'm going to ban people for saying this word, calling to their own people. And the CEO of the company didn't even know what the word meant. So it's like, how are you standing up for freedom of speech? The First Amendment protects. Listen, Antifa loses their First Amendment when they start hitting people because that's not in the First Amendment. But if they're trying to have a communist conversation, they should be allowed to. And the same with the further right. If they're doing violence and illegal stuff, that's one thing. But if they're simply, trying to just say unpopular social, racial, religious things, I mean, that's what the First Amendment's supposed to protect. It's not here to protect everyone like water is wet. It's there to protect unpopular speech. And that's what I'm trying to explain is like the right wing actually doesn't do that. They gatekeep this left wing ideology and then act as if you're crazy if you want the ship to stop. And when it comes to radicalization and people really taking it too far, I agree with Daryl Davis. He was recently on Joe Rogan with Bill Ottman from Minds.com. And he is a black jazz musician who got hundreds or dozens of KKK members to quit. How did he do that? Did he do that by yelling at them and screaming at them and banning them from Facebook? No, he did it through talking to them and being such a cool black guy that they were like, oh, I've never met somebody like you. You've changed my whole ideology because you're such an intellectual. So that's the way to de-radicalize people, is to be honest and have conversations and have empathy and humility and not only does the left not do that, they think every grandma is like a Nazi for voting for Trump, but even the Republican Party is banishing. There's millions of kids that feel displaced because of all this racial propaganda in America. There's millions of kids that are feeling further right now than ever because they're getting treated so garbage. And the Republican Party just disavows them, throws them off getter. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? Because in certain cases, people are going to act out a certain way because the First Amendment not only protects, us from the government, but really it's a diffuser in a lot of ways. If you're, it's like holding into something and not being able to vent. Now it like builds up, you get angrier. It's the same thing with free speech. When you're banished to the dark webs, when you're banned from banks, when you're having money seized and you're being banned from CPAC and you're a right winger, do you think that makes you less radical? Like, oh yeah, I was wrong, actually. No, talking to Daryl Davis makes you think differently. Talking to me, might give you a different opinion. I'm not trying to change people's minds completely. I'm just saying, like, having a real conversation and somebody real like listening to you and at least hearing what you have to say versus banishing you from existence. That's how to actually de-radicalize people. So it's so bad on every level. But I really just wanted to break it down clear. And then I'm going to read a few comments. I'm not saying Trump and everybody are like paid off to be controlled opposition. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying ideologically, the Republican Party is controlled opposition, whether they know it or not, because all they do is adopt further left wing stances socially, fiscally, economically, spiritually, further left stances than the Democratic Party 15 years ago. They're further left than Obama, further left than Hillary, further left than Biden, further left than Clinton, further left than Gore on all these issues. And they gatekeep that further left ideology and say, left wing journalists are allowed to have conversations. Left wing, we'll listen to you. The far left, you're allowed to come talk because we're so tolerant. But we do disavow the right wing, though. Anybody who disagrees with us, you must that's like Crenshaw. I go at him because it's like, I don't care if he disagrees with me on Ukraine and Russia. It doesn't matter to me. It's a complex issue. It's difficult. But he's like, there's only propaganda on one side. That itself is propaganda. If I say only the Democratic Party has propaganda, I'm lying. Republicans lie too. Duh. There's liars on both sides. But if you say there's only liars in Russia and not Ukraine, now I think you're a liar. And you are a liar. So it's like that's like an example of gatekeeping. It's like, here's what it means to be a Republican. And if you disagree with me, you're a Putin puppet. Here's what it means to be a Republican. And if you disagree with Caitlyn Jenner, you're a homophobe. You have an easier time of getting on Fox News if you're Caitlyn Jenner than if you're Bryson Gray, who's a great hip hop artist who's just too far right ideologically. And all I'm saying is, if you're going to allow the Caitlyn Jenners of the world to have a full blown, speech on your network, you have to also leave the door open for the right wing. You can't just open the door for the furthest left, even though, she's right wing politically. I'm just saying, like, socially, I mean, no, which is, in my opinion, in a free country is fine, but naturally things would work their way out if everybody had a conversation and the truth, in my opinion, would rise to the ranks. It's the same way in basketball. Like the cream rises to the crop. I'm not afraid of being out, muscled by someone else. Hey, if I'm as good as I think I am, people will hear it in any sort of world. But that's not what we're facing. We're facing these people are allowed, Caitlyn can be broadcasted on a pedestal on Fox News, but the other people like Bryson are not, their voices are being squashed. That's why Tucker is such a threat. He just speaks his mind, like openly about a lot of ideas. And it's like a control system over there where they're like, whoa, don't say that. It's like, hey, free speech is free speech. I don't want to hear the same thing I want to hear him say something different. So, that's all I'm asking for is just open the door to the other side. If you're gonna be tolerant to the political and social opinions of the left, I think that's great. But you can't close the door on the right and say that that's too far, because now you're just ensuring the Overton window moves left. Psychologically, socially, it's a no-brainer that it's going to keep going left. Because what you get what I'm saying? I hope I explained it well, but that's all I'm asking for is free speech. And I think until the Republican Party admits this and they stop passing anti-Semitism laws and they stop using the word homophobe and racist and all these things that the left does, they're really just controlled opposition who are moving further and further left on every level and gatekeeping this idea that anybody who challenges that from a further right perspective must be compromised or must be Russian or must be a homophobe. It's not true. That's not how it works. Everybody's not afraid of homosexuals. Like, if I have an opinion, whether it's popular or not, It's not like I'm afraid hiding in my closet. Like, you get what I'm saying? These words are just fake. Like, oh, if you disagree, if you think Zelensky's corrupt, you must work for Putin. That's fake. You know what I'm saying? I don't live in Ukraine or Russia. I don't have to like Zelensky or Putin. I don't have to like Joe Biden. I actually really don't. I didn't vote for him and I never would. So I have to like a foreign president, but I'm allowed to not like my own president. Doesn't make any sense. It's like same thing with Russia, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Mexico. It's like you were under, by left wing or right wing, you are under no obligation as an American to love, or you don't even have to like your own president, let alone another country. Both sides of the equation. Oh, that's hate speech. If you disagree with a wall, you must hate Mexicans. It's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. And then you got the right wing, like, if you disagree with Israel, you must be an anti-Semite. It's like, I don't even like my own president. I have to like a country that's forcing 3 or 4 Pfizer shots on people. I don't. I like people in Israel. I have, people that I follow that live there, and I follow, Israeli newspapers because I like to follow worldly things. But it's like, I don't have to agree with the government. I don't even agree with my own government. It's such a crazy game that the not just the left is playing, but the right is also. It's just super deceptive because they get you to hate the left so much, because the left is by far the craziest and the worst. No doubt. They're right about that. But, don't be hateful. Don't be so angry at the left that you're blind to your own side. I think that's how we beat this, is just keep a clear mind. Don't get too emotional. Don't get too tied up, because once you get too tied up emotionally and fear based, that's how they manipulate the left wing. And that's also how they're manipulating the right wing from being logical about what I'm saying, instead of being like, well, it's just left. It's like, it's mostly the left. But our own side is acting as controlled opposition, and they're almost ensuring that the left wing wins whether Trump wins or not, because it's a cultural and a social battle going on, and it's not fair. There is this country, and I have to really explain this to the thorough extent of how much this means to me, has really nothing even to do with sexuality. This is not why I feel the way I feel. Like, oh my God, I normally feel so about Caitlyn Jenner. I'm just talking about ideologically. If you don't have the First Amendment in this country, everything goes. Okay. The only reason we've been innovative and creative, I believe this. I don't actually like Russia and China's system. People think like, oh, he says stuff about China sometimes. I don't think a godless authoritarianism works very well. And in Russia, I don't think authoritarianism, even with a Christian backing, works really well. I mean, you got to make sure your leader's moral, but in general, I really believe in creativity and competition. And anytime you have an overbearing government, it's historically, I have books that really explain throughout history, the best societies have been ones that, one, have a moral compass. You have to be moral. You can't be a degenerate. But, I'm not talking about like libertarianism, like liberalism, where everyone's just going crazy. You got to be a moral people. You have to have some sort of fundamental background, but you have to be able to do science. You have to be able to do engineering. Once the government, like in America, gets involved in not just gender, but science, engineering, pharmacy, medical, you lose your license. I mean, our whole country is going to suffer for generations. And it's not just because of the left wing. It's because the right wing is playing controlled op as well and censoring certain opinions, racial opinions, social opinions, scientific opinions, political opinions. I don't agree with violence. I would never allow that. I believe, like, violent people need to be dealt with. That doesn't get protected by the First Amendment. But unpopular social, political, scientific opinions, you don't have a country. If people can't talk about race and gender and sexuality, especially, you can't be right about it, let alone wrong about it. I think you should be wrong about it, but you can't even be right about anything in this country. So, until we stop that Overton window from moving and allow free market competition, it doesn't matter how half-assed the Republican Party does it. Oh, we're pretending to do free speech on our platforms, except we ban other people. It's not about you or me. It's not about my feelings or your feelings. It's about just the psychology and the philosophy of why competition works, and why, when everybody's allowed to not just be a degenerate and do illegal stuff, but critically think about race, critically think about religion. In a weird way, critical race theory is the opposite of critical thinking. It like deletes critical thinking and just blasts propaganda into kids' heads. But like, if you can't critically think, if you can't debate, if you can't converse, if you can't say unpopular things, if you can't innovate, if you can't create, if you can't build, our whole country is going to the ground. And it's not just going to be because of the left. It's going to be because of the controlled opposition, Republicans, who gatekeep their own little crappy half liberal, half Republican ideas and care more about money, power, fame, and playing it safe than they do the fundamental foundation of our country. And I'm going to say this again, because this is one of the most profound things I've said in months that I want to drive into people. Whether you're African, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Native American, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, atheist, from Ireland to Libya to Dubai, I don't care who you are. This message is for any human of any ethnic group. History is not all evil. These people telling you history is all evil, they don't want you to read the Bible. They don't want you to read the Tao Te Ching. They don't want you to read the Quran. They don't want you to read ancient texts. They don't want you to read Greek. They don't want you to read Marcus Aurelius. They don't want you to know that there were people that were smarter, wiser, more moral, and more just and more honest than them thousands of years ago. They don't want you to know that. That's the big trick. So don't ever let them trick you into thinking you should be ashamed of yourself, or you should be ashamed of your ancestors, or your ancestors are so evil and they're so good. Those are the evil people that are way worse than your ancestors. They're trying to deceive you and manipulate you into ignoring the ancient wisdom. And that's how they're going to control you. When it comes to the American Constitution, people need to realize in Canada why they're doing worse than us freedom-wise. They don't have the Constitution. If you're black in America, one of the biggest deceptions is the liberal. I'm going to play this clip again real quick because I think I actually have it loaded in. And I want to play this and I want to explain real quick. But I luckily actually just have it loaded in. I forgot.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox.
That's Malcolm X saying that the white liberal is the most deceitful person in the Western Hemisphere. There's a reason he said that, okay? And people, every time that goes viral, people message me, oh, he didn't like conservatives and Republicans. I'm not saying he did, but listen what he said. Listen, they're the number one, most deceitful in the Western Hemisphere. Why? Because they're tricking you. I'm not saying American history is perfect, but if you're a black especially, but any race, they're trying to convince you, oh, America's so bad, so follow us. America has its flaws, but the Constitution is one of the only documents in world history that puts a space between you and the government. And whether it founded this way or not, everybody of every ethnic race now gets access to the Constitution. Most documents in Canada, in other countries, it doesn't give people power and a space between the government. It's the government rules over you. They win, you lose, you know? Very few countries, I'm not going to say only America, but America has unique philosophy written into its Constitution where it's giving you space from the government. You get guns too. Most countries don't have guns. They gave you guns for a reason, not to use them and hurt people, but to protect yourself against tyranny and have it in your back pocket. The First Amendment, it's there. It's not for popular speech. It's for unpopular speech. So if you're whoever you are, Christian, black, white, Asian, you have something unpopular to say, you should be allowed to say it and not go to jail for saying it. That's important. And it's the liberal, just like Malcolm X said, that is trying to deceive black culture in America and white people who are following black culture like music and sports, etc. And, you know, they just follow the trends and follow pop culture and follow rap. They're trying to make you follow people who are trying to erase the only thing standing in the way between you and the government. I'm not saying you have to love America. I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not saying that there's no flaws in history, but they are trying to tell you that it's all evil, so you have no freedom between you and the government. That's what's going on, and they're using racial conflict in America in order to do that. I have a book here. It's a great read. I talked about it. I just had it, so I figured I'd show it. Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. He was a black communist in the 1900s who converted to more conservative. He was Christian, and he realized what the communists were doing and the left-wingers were doing, and he was like, oh my goodness, I see what they're doing now. He wrote a whole book about it, Color, Communism, Common Sense. He's smarter than 99% of people today. So, oh, your history is so bad. Then how did a black person write a book in the 1900s that's more philosophical than anything anyone's ever writing? This is more profound than anything Colin Kaepernick or Sean King has ever written. You know, they don't want you to read that. They want you to think everything was bad and just follow their lead. But where they're leading you is away from your freedom of speech, away from your Second Amendment, away from your right to privacy. They want to get rid of private property. That's in the Communist Manifesto. There is a group of people who believes in big government intervention. So especially if you're any race, but if you're black, you should want to keep any property that you have, any inheritance that your family has, anything that you've been able to earn, whether it's one thing, 1,000 things, 2,000 things, you do not want to give that to the federal government. And it's left-wingers who are going to be the biggest threat to you. That's why Malcolm X said that. I'm going to play it again, but you know, they're trying to sell people of all cultures. History was evil. History was evil. History was evil. Now follow us to the future. What future? What future do they provide? forced masking, forced vaccination. Kyrie Irving can't play a basketball game because he didn't get the Pfizer shot. More taxes, more control systems, no ability to disagree with them, no ability to talk about gender, them sexualizing your children, not even being able to talk about. That's the future they're leading you to. They're not leading you to this amazing future like left wingers like, oh, George Washington was bad and we're the good guys. They're not the good guys, and they don't want you to read ancient texts, whether it be the Constitution, color communism, common sense, going back thousands of years of reading ancient texts. There's more wisdom, more knowledge, more profound morality in those texts than in anything coming out of anybody's mouth. Stephen Colbert, these people are the clowniest of the clowns. Read someone like Booker T. Washington. He's smarter than any liberals today. They were not. It was not all evil. It's like they tell you that the past was all evil, and then they do people into thinking like after World War II, Hitler lost and everything was perfect and the democracy won. I'm sorry, but that's a lie. Look at what's going on now. This happens because they make people think, oh, we fixed it right then and follow us because we're the good guys. They're not the good guys. The left is not the good guys. So, for some reason, people are so naive. They're like, I can't imagine anything bad happening now because it all ended before. And it's like, what are you talking about? Why would you think that? Like, Russia invaded Ukraine. Yeah, that sucks. But America invaded 10 countries. Israel and Palestine have been fighting for 50 years. Like this idea that there was no conflict and the maps were going to stay the same. I mean, that would be amazing, but they've never stayed the same in human history. I'm not justifying conquering people. I'm not justifying invasion and imperialism in the modern world. I'm just saying that's real world. That's like, leaving all your doors open and just like, living in the middle of like the ghetto with all your doors open and just like, Rolexes on your front porch and being like, oh, the world is perfect. No one's going to steal these. It's like people are robbing people in Beverly Hills every day, not every day, but it's like, it's getting unsafe there. So it's the point I'm trying to get to is like the world's not perfect, unfortunately. Doesn't mean you got to be a downer about it. But this like idea that everyone's like, oh man, there's no agenda behind this. Like, there's no agenda behind this. They locked you down. Kids got fatter. They shut down sports. They shut down beaches. There's no agenda behind that. Oh, yeah, that just randomly happened for your health. But by mistake, people got less healthy. I mean, are people really this naive and foolish? Maybe, but they do a great job of pushing these ideologies behind social movements and finding an emotional angle to I would say scapegoat other people. And the way through that, I think, is to not to sound corny, but drop the hate out of your heart and really that's when you'll be able to observe. You can't hate the other side. You can't have that much hate or anger. You will be played. If you're right wing and you hate the left too much, you're going to get played. You will be fooled. If you're left wing and you hate the right too much, you have gotten fooled more in the last 5 years than any humans probably ever got fooled. I would say, as somebody that just spent a whole live stream saying that I think the Republican Party's controlled opposition, I don't know if a group of humans have ever been fooled as much as liberals in the last 6 years as many times as they have. I mean, almost every mainstream narrative trending has been like a total misrepresentation of what really happened. Like it's like the Truman Show. It's like, here's the narrative, here's the agenda. You can't disagree. If you disagree, you're racist. If you disagree, you're sexist. If you disagree, you're bent. It doesn't mean you're right. It means the powers that be have decided on that. They all repeated in unison. And anybody that critically thinks and asks the wrong questions will be eliminated from the public sphere, or at least, character assaulted in the press. So people, normies think that they're all bad and stuff. So, that's the story of the day. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I'll stay for a few. I'll answer some questions. And that is the live stream. I will bring like probably 10 comments up, and then I'll try to keep it at under 45 minutes. Real quick, this is my Patreon, patreon.com/raretalk. I have my second Secret Stash podcast up. If you are interested in that, supporting the show and listening to a secret podcast with my friend that nobody hears publicly, that's on patreon.com/raretalk. If you want to hear free podcasts, I have Dream Rare Podcast. It's just called Dream Space Rare Space Podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple, Podbean. It's everywhere that podcasts are found. Free podcast, hours worth of content. I talked to my Muslim friend and my Jewish friend. We had an interesting conversation. I'm going to interview comedian Ryan Long this week. I talked to some people, the CEO of Gab, Zuby. It's great. Every other one's by myself, one's with somebody else. So if you like to hear me talk, every other one is just me. If you like to hear conversations and other people talk more, I have that. So even with my, Jewish and Muslim friend, I tried to let them talk a lot. I know they said some unpopular and controversial things. On one hand, some of the things I agreed with them. On other hands, when I'm a host and I have two people, I'm trying to facilitate a conversation. So I'm not trying to talk a lot. That's why I had my podcast. I'm like, I'm going to do one, 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 one. So it's not just me rambling and it's not just other people talking. I don't talk. I like to be a good host. So I don't like to cut people off. I want to hear their full ideas and let them get them out. So when I'm a host, I speak less most of the time, for purposely, because I talk a lot. I like to listen and learn too. So check that out. Dream Rare Podcast. It's all free. It's all public. But if you do want the secret stash and you want access to extra content, that's a great way until they ban me. Then I'll figure something else out. I hope they don't, but you can't trust, unfortunately, like any of these anymore. Someone said, I'm going to read this. Someone said, podcasts are essential forms of communication. I was thinking that, Teeny, podcasts have been revolutionary. I like listening to them, but it's not being censored as much. They're new. There's a lot of competition in the podcast market, so they're not going full censorship, and it's a hard thing to censor. So podcasts have been very important. Anything, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, like these are communication. People are listening. People are learning. God is great, and I think podcasts are very, very important. So that's why I started another one. It's a new way for people to learn and listen to conversations. I enjoy it way, way more than the news. Someone said, thank you. I appreciate you, Taz Show. Let's see. Someone said, peace, love, and salutations. Someone said Trump was in fine form at his rally tonight. I'll try to check out clips. I guess I just don't care enough, but he's definitely funny and likable. I just, he lost me for the last year and a half with his leadership, but he's better than Biden. But I just hope people are not like religiously involved and really paying attention more. Someone said, "Are Catholics real Christians?" I mean, there's a debate. I try not to get too judgy, but there's a lot of Christians who think Catholics are not. There's a lot of Catholics who think Christians are not. There's different kinds, but I would say there's probably a lot of both that look at each other like they're doing it wrong. If you were a Catholic and you didn't want to be a Catholic, you would just not be. So, I feel like there's some tolerant people, but there's a lot of debates going on, people debating about the Trinity. And, I'm not saying it's not important but it's not my place. There's a lot of like scholars and people that are pastors that have these debates. It's not my lane. It's not what I do. And, someone asked me, what type of Christian are you? I'm not a pastor. I'm not a preacher. I don't run a church. So, I'm working on getting better myself, learning, becoming a better person. But I don't feel in this position of like Christian authority to really speak on behalf of everything. Maybe I'll get into what I believe sometimes, but I pretty much say what I believe publicly like 7 days a week. So at this point, you probably know a lot of what I believe if you listen. Let me see. Someone said Catholics are the first and longest Christians. Yeah, there's going to be all sorts of debates. Like some people think that, the church is corrupt, but Catholics are good. I think that's true. Like the hierarchy in the church doesn't represent every Christian or Catholic, but I don't really feel like having this debate right now, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel a lot of different ways. Who would be my pick to run for president of 2024? I guess, in a perfect world, I don't know, maybe Thomas Massey or Ron Paul. Ron Paul's too old. I don't know. I don't know if Rand Paul, if I could choose, probably one of those two. Outside of that, I would prefer DeSantis over Trump. But at this point, it's just a clown show to me. And I think, the change will start to come when people realize who politicians were. And my take on politicians, there's some that are better than others, but their job is to be a middleman, right? They're middleman to big pharma, they're middleman from the world to you. So it's like a giant stage. It's a big show. They're all kind of just trying to deal with both sides. So people need to stop, I think, romanticizing it and start critically thinking a little bit. Like, for instance, there's a marijuana bill coming out, right? Here's just a quick example. It doesn't matter who's in office, Trump, Biden, there's a marijuana bill coming out. And everybody, I saw Joe Rogan post about it. I saw stoners post about it. People who disagree with it. Everybody's talking about it. There's only one person who inspired me to talk about it. That's why I did. Thomas Massey, who explained whether you're pro marijuana or anti marijuana, pro legalization or not, This bill is not a one-page bill. It's like if someone gives me a contract, folks, it doesn't just say, "Oh, anomaly, we're going to give you this amount of money." You got to read it. So all these bills, I'm not saying you have to read it because it's a hassle, but you should never believe the bill is what they say it is because it almost never is. So it's like it doesn't even matter who's president because everybody's like debating over this, and it's like it's probably not even doing what it says. It's probably like 50 pages, 20 pages, and it says all this other stuff. It's going to control the marijuana. It's going to turn it into a factory farm. It's going to give it to the government, and it's going to be worse for everybody. It's going to be worse for people who don't want it legalized, and it's going to be worse for people who do want it legalized. So it's like, to me, that's like the higher level of thinking. It's like, it's not even what they say it is, but everybody always debates over Trump and Biden. And, I think Trump is clearly the better choice than Biden, but he had 4 years to do right and he blew it. So anybody on the right that's like, if you vote for Trump, I get it. I mean, I'll vote for him over Biden, but this like blind faith that he's going to do the right thing, like he didn't do the right thing. He was in office. He, turned into a communist during COVID. He bumbled it. He sold vaccines for a year after his office. It's like he pardoned nobody cool. You know what I'm saying? He didn't use his pardon power to do anything like revolutionary. I mean, his Supreme Court justices are worse than Clarence Thomas, who, is picked by George Bush. He picked he picked worse Supreme Court justices than George Bush, but I still am glad they're conservative. So overall, it's like, I'm not hating on the guy, but like anybody with the illusion that Trump's going to come save the country, it's just like a lazy thing. It's just like, I don't want to do anything. So I'm just going to play this like video game. To me, it's like a video game. I hate Trump. That's my video game. I don't want to be my own person. So I'm just going to hate Donald Trump from the left wing. They're playing a fake game. And at this point, I think right wingers are playing a fake game if they think Donald Trump's going to save them. So he's clearly a better choice than Biden, but this country's not going to get better under Trump. It's not going to get better under Biden. It's not even going to get better under DeSantis or Rand Paul. People got to step up to the plate. So as long as people are doing this like escapism through politics and not realizing they're politicians and they're playing games with you, it's just a big show. So I think, who I want to be president doesn't really matter because it's probably not going to happen. But, we'll see who it is. I'll tell you what I think when the candidates present themselves. But I think the right wing audience needs to have a spine. And Trump has everybody under a spell. Everybody thinks they have to worship Trump and not question Trump and just watch Trump. No, you need to push Trump to do the right thing because he had 4 years and he totally blew it. So this hallucination that he's this massive victim, he did a lot. He got screwed a lot, but he also screwed up a lot. So I don't believe in victim mentality for Trump. He had power. He blew it on big tech. He blew it with COVID. He blew it with vaccines. He ran around the country doing Bill Gates' bidding all 2021. He got deplatformed and turned into like a big pharma lapdog. This guy is not a leader to me. And, I just think he's a thousand times better than Biden. I'm going to read this. Ken said, "You sound like a defeatist." Here's the crazy part. I am like the least defeatist person, the least victim mentality. I'm telling people we need to change America, right? We need to be the change in the country. If anybody's just sitting on the sidelines hallucinating that Donald Trump is going to save their whole life, you're playing a fake video game. There's nothing defeatist about it. In my perspective, I think people like you, I'm not blaming you, but you're being defeatist in the sense of you don't want to do anything about your country. So you have this fake idea that Donald Trump's going to flip it around when he's not. It takes more than that. It's got to be a cultural thing. It's got to be a group thing. It's not everybody sits on the couch and watches Fox News and football and Donald Trump wipes their butt for them. That's not going to save the country. So there's nothing defeatist about what I'm saying. I'm optimistic. I'm positive. I want people to grab the life by the horns and create, a successful life for themselves, whether Trump or Biden's in office. But I think that's why Trump is such a dangerous person. Nobody thinks any politician is going to save them, but Donald Trump has this cult-like allegiance where people think it's a full-blown philosophy religion that you need to think Donald Trump's going to do everything for you, or else you're a defeatist, or else you're a left-wing, or else you're this. He's the only one that has that mind control over right-wingers. He's better than Biden. He did a lot. I like his foreign policy. I like everything about him better than Biden, but I don't live under this spell that he's going to do everything for my life. I watched him for 4 years and I watched him jumble like 7 major things that were super important to me, and he didn't seem to care at all. So, the illusion that he's this leader who's going to wipe my butt, I got rid of that years ago. So I'm not saying that he's horrible. I'm not a defeatist. I think it's defeatist to assume that there is no other role. And to be totally fair, I really think that this is the problem with America. And I don't want to listen. I love everybody of every age. I don't care, what, like, I'm not an ageist, like, oh, old people, it's your fault or it's millennials' fault. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do think, like, I have to live on this earth for a long time and it rubs me the wrong way. And I'm not like, I'm sure I rub people the wrong way all the time, but it rubs me the wrong way when people who are older, who are like, there's a lot of things screwed up in the story. And they're like, oh, it's like they want to move the Overton window to the left. They want to complain when I say stop. They don't want to hold Trump accountable. It's like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? For some reason, that, like, people think that's the conservative route. There's nothing conservative about it. There's nothing safe about it. It's not going to work. It's going to burden me and people younger than me for generations to come. We need to put our foot down with Trump, foot down with the Republican Party. This idea that it's defeatist to take a stand and say, you had 4 years, you pretty much blew it under COVID. Never do that again. Never give up an inch. You sold the vaccine for a year. You could have done a million things with your energy and time, and you decided to work for Pfizer and Moderna. I don't agree with that. I'm allowed to feel that way. There's nothing defeatist about it. So, I just don't know who told you, like, America's like a microwave. Like, you just sit there and watch one person. Like, it's like a fake movie. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'll answer this question about Madison Cawthorn after, but it's like this: people think they're living in a fake movie where, like, Donald Trump is the enemy. Donald Trump is the enemy of my life and everything he does is wrong. It's fake. It's the fake news media created a fake movie to brainwash leftists into being hateful and brainwashed. The right wing, Trump has a mind control over a lot of people too. They think he's the hero in this movie that is like a transformer that's going to save the whole country. He isn't. He wasn't. He certainly is not now. He's making it clear that he's not going to be. That doesn't mean that he's horrible. It doesn't mean he's worse than Biden. He's not. He's better. But we have to be a part of the equation. America is too lazy, in my opinion. Everybody's getting overweight now. It's a simple equation: work out, exercise, move, take advantage of your life, get off the phone, get off the computer, listen to a podcast, listen to me and go to the gym, take a walk. You know what I'm saying? Go after it. Hopefully I inspired you to do something today. I'm going to get my behind to the gym. Like, that's just the reality. I don't hate America. It's just like, we're too fat. I don't hate fat people. I'm too fat. I think I'm too fat, and I'm not like, oh, I'm self-conscious, I want to be skinny. I'm trying to be in good shape. God gave me this life and I need to take care of my body because it's going to hurt me later down the road if I don't. So, it's like, this is my mentality with life, with politics. Like, we got to grab the bull by the horns. But so many people hating the left is not a full-time job, and hating the right's not a full-time job. We need to be the change in the country. That's all I'm saying. I'm not defeatist. I just don't believe Donald Trump is going to save this country. I think he's an improvement to Biden, but at the same time, it worries me that so many people think it's like Trump's like a microwavable dinner. Just pop them in the microwave for 4 years and you get your country back. That's not how it works. He's not going to do that. That doesn't mean it's his fault. It's our fault. It's your fault. It's my fault. He's not a microwavable dinner. He's not a QAnon be all end all save the whole world. He's not Jesus Christ. He's a politician who sells vaccines for a year, who, it doesn't have authoritarian power over everything. And that's okay. Just as long as people realize it's not defeatist to want to grab life by the horns. America is going down if people don't do this. We're too fat. We're too lazy. We're too complacent. We're too go with the flow. That's not our history. That's not our culture. And if enough people don't snap out of it, left wing or right wing, our country is going far left, even with 4 more years of Trump. 4 years of Trump, the country went left socially, politically, censorship wise. You look at the entire scale, the country flew left. I'm not saying it's Trump's fault. I'm just saying, if he couldn't do it in those 4 years, I think that we need to help him out a little bit. I think there needs to be more than just everybody sitting on the sidelines and saying, if you don't agree with everything he does and you don't want to be a part of it, you must be a leftist. It's not going to work. That's my opinion. Don't have to agree with it. My thoughts on Madison Cawthorn. I've lightened up to him recently. I think he said some honest things, but he's a politician, so it is what it is. I guess, he's a younger politician. I think he's tapped into social media. Madison Cawthorn, I think, listens more than other politicians because he's younger and he uses social media. So I think he's a good ally in the Republican Party. But once again, his job is to serve you. So keep your eyes peeled. If you disagree with him, be clear about it. Nothing changes until enough people get on the moral side and hold their politicians accountable. So I think that's kind of how I feel about him. He's just a politician to me. I don't really have a huge feeling. I want to read this. Someone said Donald Trump made it better when Barack Obama got out of office. Dude, you're a little too negative. You're talking too much. Here's the thing. This is what I'm talking about with Trump. Like, all I'm saying is positive stuff, but people are not listening. Like, 4 years of Trump ended up in lockdowns, forced vaccination, masks. We did not end in a good place. The country did not get more free under Trump. I'm not saying it's his fault, but if you are so mind controlled by your obsession for him that you can't even identify that we lost freedom, that censorship started in 2018, on every level, we lost ground during Donald Trump. Once again, Tony, I'm not saying it's Trump's fault, but if you don't even know that that's going on, what planet are you living on? What country are you living in? What are things, you get what I'm saying? It's not negative, it's just reality. I'm an optimistic person. I'm positive. Life is good. No one's going to stop my hustle. Donald Trump has people in this spell where they feel like they're living in some sort of Transformer movie and they can't have a rational discussion about it. Left wingers have Trump derangement syndrome. A lot of right wingers have Trump obsession syndrome. Their whole mind goes out the window and they freak out when you say two things. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying in 4 years of him, we printed more money than we ever did. We had more lockdowns. We had more censorship. A lot of things flung the other way. And I don't even like his Supreme Court justices that much. I don't trust them. So it's not saying that I'm mad at it. It's just like, if that was a success to you, you're going to end up in a gulag. It's like, if that's success to you, forced masking, lockdown, it's like that. And then you say, oh, well, it wasn't his fault. I agree. So if he couldn't do anything about it then, what makes you think he's going to do anything then? People need to pay attention. How many people voted for Trump and then wore masks for 2 years? What's the point of voting? You think you're going to vote for Trump and just sit there and he's going to save your whole life? It's very childish. It's not negative. It's just like, to me, it's just kind of like embarrassing. I'm not trying to be rude, but like, Joe Biden's not going to break my hustle. Barack Obama's not going to break my hustle. Trump's not going to break my hustle. I'm not a couch sitter. I'm not a, I don't watch the world get me by. I hustle. I'm not going to let any man stop me. So I want people to have that mentality, not sitting on the couch, wearing 2 masks, eating ice cream, watching the Broncos, saying, oh, Trump's going to save my whole world. He's my religion now. I like him more than Jesus. Like, cool. That doesn't make you more loyal. It's weird. It's like, that's why so many people are overweight in this country. I'm not knocking it. I'm sure it's half my audience because it's over half the country. I think I have too much, but in general, like, who's going to make you, take care of yourself. It's your life. It's not Donald Trump's life. It's not Joe Biden's life. Like, I don't know who told this country, you just got to sit there and hate Trump or love Trump and you talk too much and you're so negative. I'm the least negative person. I go out there and get it. I didn't like the media. I became the media. 1 billion views. I've had, every time I do videos, I see it on Tucker. I see it on other channels. I mean, I'm moving the needle in culture right now because I bust my ass because I work. Trump's not doing it for me. Biden's not doing it for me. I want you to feel the same way. It's not hating Trump. It's like, why are so many people just sitting there doing nothing and acting like it's all going to change overnight from one man? One man's going to stop everything. One man's going to save everything. He didn't do it. He's not going to do it. If that hurts your feelings, come on. Someone said, thank you for sharing this, motivating me to go outside for a walk. That's the whole point of this. It's not to get angry or upset at people. That's what life's about. If you haven't, I'm not trying to put someone in a bad environment or anything, but yeah, it's good to get exercise. It's good to get a walk. It's good to, grab the horns in your own life. And that's the problem in America. I don't blame Trump. I don't even blame Biden. I blame our country. People are too lazy. And I get really passionate about it because I just don't understand where it comes from. I believe it's a disservice to God to be so lazy. You know what I'm saying? God gave you a life. If you're ungrateful for what he gave you and you don't utilize what he gave you, at least try to, you're doing him a disservice because he gave you life. He gave you the opportunity to live in America. He didn't give you the opportunity to live in America to just sit there and watch the world pass you by and root for one guy to save your whole life and yell at me when I say it's not going to happen. He gave you this opportunity to do something, to be a part of the change, and this country changes when people feel this way. We don't have a motivated country. We don't have an inspired country. We have a country of people that are just watching the world pass them by, so I'm not saying that to be rude or mean, but when people are not grateful and appreciative for what they have in the sense of like, they're not willing to do anything about it. It's like, I don't feel bad for anybody. It's like, what, at what point, why do you deserve freedom? Why do you deserve liberty? People don't seem to want it. They don't even want to talk about what happened in 2020. They just want to go along with the flow. I don't feel like we deserve anything. I feel like we're getting exactly what we deserve, because for some reason people just think everything that they've ever had in America is guaranteed to them, and everything that they've grown up on is just, it needs to happen. No, we were lucky. We were lucky to have that. We were lucky to grow up how we grew up. We were lucky to have somewhat of peace. We were lucky for non-war times. Like, none of that is guaranteed. It's all going away. And I stand by that. Donald Trump is not going to do all of it. He could help a little bit, but the fact that so many people think that he's going to do all this, it's not true. And if you can't identify that, in 2018 censorship started, in 2020 lockdowns, forced masking, all that started. That's not to blame him. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying that's when it happened. 4 years of him, we went backwards on everything. He got a few Supreme Court justices. He got some judges. That's important. I give him credit. He called out the media. That's important. He called out the corruption. That's important. He did a good job in foreign policy. Absolutely. I appreciate that. I'm not a hater. I'm not ungrateful. I appreciate what Trump did, but he is certainly not going to do everything for this country. He's not. He doesn't even want to. He's shown you what he can do, and now it's our time to do, the rest. Move. Like, I don't know. I'm just not, like, I can't be a cheerleader. That's just, everybody just wants to sit. It's not gonna work. But whatever. I'm just. Someone said this is a great synopsis of Trump. Well, it's just America in general. It's like it's in a situation now where everybody's watching a movie. The world is a movie, right? The left is watching here. I'll break down the left's movie. Trump is evil. Trump is Hitler. Trump is bad. Trump is a Nazi. Trump is Putin. Trump is Stalin. Trump is everything. Trump is God, devil. Like, that's the left. That's like, they hate him. They think it's this big movie because Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon lied to them. The media lied to them. Celebrities lied to them. All they do is push propaganda. Twitter, Facebook, they're all lying. So people are stuck in this fake movie. Their analysis of Trump on the left wing could not be more wrong. They're wrong about almost everything. You've heard what I think about Trump. The left is wrong about almost everything because they're living in a fake scripted movie created by big tech. Now you go to the right, a lot of people are pragmatic. A lot of people get it on the right, but a lot of people are caught under the spell that they're living in the opposite movie, that he's not all those things. He's actually the opposite. He is, the hero. He is the savior. He will change everything. It's just not true. He had 4 years and he dropped the ball on quite a few things. It doesn't mean he's horrible. It's just like Ronald Reagan. I don't think he was an evil person, Ronald Reagan. I wasn't even alive to really know what he did, but Ronald Reagan passed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Ronald Reagan did not do all these conservative things. He did some. He caved on quite a few really big issues like immigration, and how he did it really impacted America in a liberal direction. I'm not saying I hate Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan was not the savior of America. Donald Trump was certainly not either. So I don't, I'm not saying he's bad, but I think it's dangerous for so many people to play cheerleader and spectator and be like, all we have to do is get him back. I'd almost rather Ted Cruz, because nobody likes Ted Cruz that much. If Ted Cruz were in power, in my opinion, Ted Cruz is similar to Trump. Honestly, like, Trump is just a better actor, but like, they're both kind of conservative on some things. Ted Cruz is more conservative than Trump on some things. Trump is way more conservative than Ted Cruz on some things. I don't trust Ted Cruz, but I like the fact that nobody likes Ted Cruz that much. Donald Trump, people are obsessed with the guy. So if he gets in power, he knows how to do anything. He can work his audience, tell him to do spins like a dog, go over here, don't question me. It's always the other person's fault. We're fighting McConnell. He could put on a show for 4 years. We could go 20 steps to the left and he's out of office, and now we have nothing to show for it. That's kind of how I feel for 2020. The Supreme Court justices are okay, but I think they're pretty garbage compared to Clarence Thomas. They're both way worse than Clarence Thomas. George Bush put Clarence Thomas in office. I don't like George Bush, but George Bush gave us a better Supreme Court justice than Donald Trump did. So I'm not blown away by his decision. If he was really this revolutionary outsider, he would have done what Ron DeSantis did. Ron DeSantis put in, a real doctor, a real frontline doctor as the Surgeon General. Ron DeSantis wields power well. I don't agree with everything he does, but Ron DeSantis governs like somebody that actually cares. Like, I'm going to use my power to the full extent to do the right. Donald Trump did 1/8 of what Ron DeSantis does. He didn't put a good person at the Surgeon General. He followed Fauci's coattails. He followed Dr. Birx's coattails. He ran in circles around Pfizer. He didn't really do, DeSantis did 10 times as much as he did to fight the narrative of COVID. So this idea that, he's like this. I don't even consider him like a top 5 leader in the Republican Party anymore. I think Candace Owens does a better job than him, even though she's not a politician. DeSantis does a better job. Rand Paul did a better job. Marjorie Taylor Greene does a better job. Tucker Carlson does a better job. I don't even consider him like 2 years ago. Trump's the number one, and the number two is not even close. This is how much I like Trump. Trump's number one. A couple years ago, the closest was like Rand Paul, and he was so far down. It was like Trump had the biggest lead in the world. Now I don't even consider Trump a top 5 leader for this country. Morality, like he's not. That's just not. That's how I feel. But so it's not like I hate everything he ever done, but I feel like Trump is a master manipulator of like putting on a show, whereas Ron DeSantis just kind of does it. You know what I'm saying? Here's my Surgeon General. Trump will put on this big show and pick a shitty Surgeon General, like the Jerome Adams guy. That guy sucked. No offense. He was a total big pharma sneak. I didn't like him at all. It's like Mike Pence's Indiana guy. Like that's Trump. Put on a big spectacle, pick someone half-assed. Put on a big spectacle, pick some half-assed Supreme Court. Put on a big spectacle. Ron DeSantis is the opposite. He doesn't draw that much attention to himself, but he just actually does it. Like, I'm passing this bill. I'm picking this person. That's just how I feel about Trump, where I'm like, I would almost rather someone less popular so MAGA actually use their power. The power is in the hands of MAGA. It's not in the hands of Trump, or these politicians will move in a second as soon as we wake up. If we do the work, they'll get the moving. Just like the left moves us left and they all evolve, the right is evolving too. But that's my worry with Trump, is people get so upset that I feel like if he gets in, he's going to put on a big show, do nothing. Where if we had someone like Ted Cruz, I like Ted Cruz way less than Trump, but I like the fact that people don't like him. Nobody's going to be kissing Ted Cruz's ass. If Ted Cruz does something not conservative, everybody's going to be on his ass, and Ted Cruz is going to have to apologize. He's done it multiple times. If Trump does something non-conservative, he's a good enough, comedian and actor to convince a bunch of people that he's fighting pedophiles underground when he's really just giving away our free speech. Like, that's how likable Trump is. That's how cool he is, So I consider that an asset 4 years ago when he's crushing it. But when Trump's selling Pfizer shots and Moderna shots and trying to act like he just saved the world from the Spanish flu, I consider it dangerous. Now Trump's using his charm and using his intellect and using his comedy for, evil. So I've watched him do that. He didn't always do that, in my opinion, but I consider him as much better. I would vote for him over Biden. I consider Trump not even a top 3 in my head. I know he's number 1 in everyone's hearts, but I consider him, potentially just, not being helpful. Someone said DeSantis all the way. And for people, when I say this, then people are like, oh, Anomaly agrees with everything DeSantis does. No, I tell you the truth. I don't like the speech bills he passed. However, he governs. Ask anybody. Look at Cernovich's page, Pasabic, whoever. Everybody kind of respects the way he governs. You've never seen a governor like DeSantis. Here's what I'm doing. I don't need a big spectacle. Pick a good Surgeon General. Don't listen to Fauci. Like Trump, he puts on this show. He says this. Oh, I'm going to open up at Easter. Oh, I'm not going to open up. Oh, Georgia, don't open up. Like it's a big spectacle every time. It's funny. Trump's hilarious. He's the funniest president ever. But like once he started just being like a sneak, it's like it's not funny anymore. It's just like cringy. So I think DeSantis is ready to govern. I don't he'll be president, but as Florida, I've never seen a Republican governor actually govern. Here's what I believe. Stop pushing this stuff on the kids. Good. They're pushing too far. DeSantis needs it. I don't think Trump is that type of person. I think he just is, I don't think he's ready to really like put his foot down. I think he did in some ways, but I don't know. I mean, it's not up to me, but I pray that people are ready to, use their power. MAGA has all the power. If you just watch the world pass you by and watch Trump pass you by, it's going to be another shuck and jive, another lockdown, another Fauci. There's going to be another excuse. His advisors, it was Jared Kushner. It's going to be the same story over and over. He hasn't even nipped this in the bud. He just started a social media company with $1 billion investment, and it doesn't even work right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like Obama's care website. True Social is like garbage. I mean, it looks bad. It doesn't work. People are on a waiting list. This is a failure of a launch. I mean, it's still what it is. I root for it, but how are you going to do that with $1 billion? People have had better social media launches with like $1 million. It's like he's not this wizard that does everything right. He's surrounded by bad advisors. He hasn't learned his lesson in a lot of ways. I would still vote for him over Biden, but I just, it creeps me out that people like don't see this stuff because it's like if he gets in, it's going to be one big show again. The left's going to go insane. The right's just going to make excuses, and everybody's going to stop paying attention. If Ted Cruz or Rand Paul was in office, everyone would pay attention because no one likes them overly much. You know what I'm saying? Like people would be like, "No, Ted Cruz, I don't trust you." You know, it's good not to trust a politician. You don't want to like obsess over Joe Biden or obsess over Trump. It's not healthy. You know, it's not good for our movement. More than just a leader. It's like, culturally, socially, we can't afford to just like have a big show that ends in a lockdown. There is no third term. It's like this would be his last term. People gotta, make sure he does the right thing, not just like, oh, maybe he'll do it. No, he's not. You got to be a part of the game. Someone said the other thing that bugs me about Trump is how he does interviews with left wing hacks like Bob Woodward and Michael Wolff. They write books trashing him. Well, that's the thing. I think I'm not going to get into Trump's personal life and who he talks to because that's up to him. But I think a lot of people on the right have a bigger they're more open to the left than they are the right. For instance, one thing that Obama does well is he does a lot of interviews on YouTube. Like I'll see big YouTubers do interviews with Obama. Like Trump has a huge audience, dude. He barely did any interviews with anyone. He did one with the Nelk Boys recently. That was awesome. He did one with Dave Portnoy. That was awesome. But like, I think for some reason the right wing likes, they want the acknowledgement of the left and they want that glitz and glamour and they have these people. But really, I think we should build up. You could speak to the other side, but I'm not going to hold it against him. I just wish that he put more people on the map. He did the little social media summit thing, which was cool. He definitely did some stuff, but I would love if he did a lot more interviews with like random people. I think that would be cool. Like big, I mean, like people like DC Drano and Trump should be doing interviews with them and like but that's for him and his whatever it's called. He's in a tough pickle now because they censored him so much. So him and his advisors can figure out who they want to talk to. But I hear what you're saying. I don't like to dictate who people talk to. If he wants to talk to left wingers, that's fine. But yeah, they write books about him and frame him, and Trump reminds me of like Tom and Jerry. Like he's always getting like it's like this big show, like do you remember when he was like, oh, Zuckerberg, I thought we were friends, like, oh, I didn't know. It's like, dude, are you lying and putting on a show, or did you really think Zuckerberg really liked you? Like he's like, oh, it's like I almost got that Tom. I almost caught him. I'm this close. Like, that's like his whole persona. He's like a big clown. It's like I'm not saying you have to like shut down Facebook. I'm just saying like just be honest about it. Like I got played, or it's like, oh, I almost got there. I thought you were on my side. Like to me, Trump is a master politician already. He knows how to finesse his audience, but he also knows how to finesse Mark Zuckerberg, and like he plays the game very well. And I think he convinced people that he didn't. Like if you look up Pfizer paid Trump $1 million, Bank of America, they gave him money for his inauguration. Why do you think you pay for a president's inauguration? It's lobbying. You give them $1 million, they get a favor. That's just how lobbying works. So in Trump's campaign, I believed it for a long time too. I'm like, oh, he's not taking money. He's so rich, he won't take, people's money. Trump actually did take money. He just sold us on the idea that he didn't. He's like Bernie Sanders. I'm with you, not the billionaires. But he's with the Democratic Party. Bernie wasn't with you. He's with Hillary Clinton. He just lied to you for votes. To me, that kind of feels like Trump. He like at this point, unfortunately, I believe that he didn't take money from people, but he did. And it's just like maybe not as much as Biden. That's why I voted for him. He's less of a puppet than Biden. But in my opinion, people think Trump's like 0% puppet. I think he's like 20, 30% or something, which is still better. I'd still vote for him over Biden, but I feel like it's dangerous for people to be like, he's got to save America. I'm like, he plays the game phenomenally. He's funny. He's likable. He knows how to act like he's not doing some of the same stuff. And in some ways he does different stuff. But I think time, in my opinion, before I leave, I think time tells all. And, I think the end of Trump's presidency was always going to tell who he really was. I had the utmost faith in him. I thought he was going to do better. And I think my opinion of Trump was really molded in 2020 and 2021. I gave Trump a year. to come around and be somebody that I thought he was. But to me, he showed exactly who he was during the COVID lockdowns. He showed who he was with who he pardoned. He showed who he was in 2021 when he didn't have a platform, but he could still go on Fox News and talk and, use his voice to really go off, because now that he's been deplatformed, he should, in theory, be able to say whatever he wants now. It's like, oh, I've been deplatformed. Now I'm going to really spill the beans. Did Trump spill the beans on anything? No, he ran around 2021 selling vaccines. That's like all he did in 2021. Everywhere he went, it was like a big pharma sales story. So like my respect for Trump is so low. Really. I consider him a fraud at this point. And I know that makes people mad, but that's just how I feel. I'm a man, I'm an American citizen. I'm not a baby, I'm not a pushover, and I love Donald Trump. I voted for him. I supported him. I got millions of people, I think, to, know that he was better, and I still think he was better than Hillary and Biden, but time tells all, and Trump aged horribly. I mean, I think I really don't trust him. I don't really respect him. I respect him as the president, but as like a leader of the free movement, I don't respect him at all. I think he's a total snake. So, I know that's not what people want to hear, but to me, he did not only like nothing, but he did the wrong thing for a full year after he was out of office, when he could have done pretty much anything. If I get deplatformed, do you think I'm going to sell vaccines for a year? That means I'm compromised, okay? I'm just letting you know right away. Guys, if I get deplatformed from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and everything, and my response is to run around Fox News and Newsmax selling Pfizer shots, that means I'm compromised, okay? I would never do that. It's not in my blood. It's not. So the fact that Trump did that, to me, it just proves he's compromised, and he's a total fraud. He's a total coward, or, he's not who I thought he was. I don't know which one, but at this point, it doesn't matter to me. So it's like, everybody has their own threshold of what they respect. I'd vote for Trump as a politician, but as a man, as a leader, as an American, I used to think of Trump as a 10 out of 10. Now I'm like, oh, he's just another fraud, a better fraud. It's like Marco Rubio. I'd vote for Marco Rubio over Andrew Gillum. I'd vote for Marco Rubio over Gavin Newsom. I don't like Marco Rubio. You know what I'm saying? I don't trust him, but I'd vote for him over the other people. That's kind of how I feel about Trump. I'd vote for him over Biden, but this like cult-like worship for him, no, he's, he in crunch time for America, when he had the ability to be a leader and say whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, he decided to sell vaccines for Pfizer and Moderna aggressively, obsessively, harder than Fauci, harder than Bill Gates. I mean, he was a bigger proponent of the vaccine than Bill Gates in 2021. Bill Gates was laying low. Donald Trump was everywhere. I saved the world. It's the greatest thing, blah, blah, blah. I don't, as a man, as an American, I look at him and think, what a deceiver you are. And a lot of people don't see it, which means the deception is working really well. So, I would still vote for him, though. Just be honest. I'd vote for him over Biden. Better foreign policy, better domestic policy. I think he cares about America more. I'd still vote for him. But as far as like, is he who I thought he was? He's just not. But, it is what it is. If he runs and he wins, then, I'll vote for him over Biden, but I certainly won't be supporting him in the primaries unless it's like Mitt Romney. And, I got to see the options. I'm pragmatic. I don't think America's going to be saved through politicians anyway. So, I'll be reasonable, but at this point, I would vote for Massey, Rand Paul, DeSantis personally over Candace Owens. If she ran, I'd vote for her over Trump. That's just how I feel. It is what it is. But someone said, don't stop voting. Well, people can do what they want, but I told you how I feel. Some people get mad if I say that I vote, but I'm a registered Republican. I vote all Republican. There's no reason to vote Democrat. I believe that there is some value there, even though it's lower than what I wish it was. I'm not a sore loser. I'm not going to vote for Biden, and I'm not going to vote for Democrats because I'm throwing a fit. I'm not Joe Walsh. I'm not a total fraud. I'm just being reasonable. It's like, it's not my first choice, but we'll see what happens. I explain it. I explain exactly how I feel. Someone said Thomas Massey's awesome. Yeah, he's great. He's he's someone who is being honest. Like, this is what's in the bill. This is what's in the CARES Act. Trump's the type of politician to say, oh, the CARES Act is great. I'm saving the country. No, he's not. It's a communist socialist bill. Trump passed a socialist communist scam bill for big pharma, big business, and anti-free market. And he told Thomas Massey to shut up. The fact that people still think he's like this amazing savior of America, like, you're lying to yourself. And the great thing with time is listen, people don't have to agree with me. Most people don't. I don't care. Time tells all. I've had hundreds of people say, "You told me this. I was mad. Now I get it." It's all good. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm. I don't. You don't have people don't have to agree with me. So at the end of the day, time will tell all. And I know everything I said in 2020 aged perfectly. Everything I said in 2021 aged perfectly. All my videos about COVID, because I wasn't just sitting, pandering and just, being a Republican like talking head. Everything I said has aged fine because I did real research. I told the truth. So I'm thinking long term. If my job is not to please people or be popular, I'll be popular if I'm right. All I have is my integrity. All I have is the truth. And if I ever lose that, I don't have an audience because my audience isn't really built off anything else. So, it might be unpopular temporarily, but millions of people get it. And, it's like with left wingism. They could lie all they want on all the media, but if what they're saying is truly wrong, time will tell all and it won't age well, right? Nothing they do ages well. So, their mindset doesn't age well. What they're doing to kids will not age well. So I don't care how popular it is because it's like time will, settle it all, I think, in my opinion. God bless you guys. God bless your family. Have a beautiful day. Thank you to everybody on Patreon and for free podcast, 100% free. Dream Rare podcast. It's out now. I'll be talking to Ryan Long, the hilarious comedian, this week. I'll be doing my own. Appreciate you guys. I might even turn this into a podcast. Thanks for the conversation. Appreciate you guys so much. Have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy yourself and enjoy America. Or unless you don't live in America, then enjoy wherever you are.